Got to get going. All right, recording has started, so we're good to go.
This is Jon Bailey, the epic voice guy, and I am A/N, adjective, Star Wars fan.
This is proof right here, guys. If you're watching this, you will not meet nicer people. Whoops, I'm going to point. There and there. You will not meet nicer people.
Coming back to a show that I dearly love and admire, so thanks for having me.
It's like, that's Big's Darklighter's helmet. So how did you know? Because I'm a nerd.
I've placed information vital to the survival of the rebellion into the memory systems of this R2 unit.
But, I was doing my research, and Wedge was obviously a character that you had to use if you were going to do Rogue Squadrons.
What are you doing, C-3PO? I'm taking one last look at my friends. These aren't your friends.
Cassie and Jim and the feature, people are like, no. I can literally hear people that are going, no.
It doesn't look like they're even hungry when they get out. They're not just like, did you bring a Snickers or something? There's no logic to it. And then later, we haven't even talked about the Wilford Brimley of it all.
The same thing. Sears never left me again. We're such soulmates that her being older and me being older was exactly where we were meant to be.
Because Darth Vader was the scariest thing that had ever happened to anybody, and this guy literally looks like the devil.
You go to death. There is no trying.
What's the big question people have? Like, what's the thing everybody's wondering about? What's the thing I don't understand? What would I want to hear?
The galaxy isn't growing to push people out. It's growing to let more people come in and find their love so that it's able to continue and create this connective tissue.
It's good to know that people still love it out there and that the people who made it are all proud and passionate about it and willing to come back.
It was a mess, dude. I had to wear a patch for a bit. We went to see Star Wars that night because I said, no, I'm going. We have to go. And I went to see Star Wars with a huge thing on my eye.
I like to denote people as daddies from time to time. And I believe that you are a certified daddy. Like Pedro Pascal's a daddy. Like, certified daddy.
I have had the best time ever on Around the Galaxy. Thank you so much.
Well, we are talking to Jon Bailey, the epic voice guy. Jon, how are you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me on. I know some of those peoples.
I thought you might know a couple people on that list.
I've Deborah Wilson a few times, and I know Shelby Young.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
Yeah. They're just the greatest people too. Like I
also
think
know. I think his name's Jan or son. I can't remember. But we have the same agent, so I've seen him in the agency. Before COVID, when they actually had actual booths, and now it's a bank.
Now, are you still?
Everybody records at home now.
Yeah, I was gonna say in the post-COVID world, they saw like, that was working out well for everybody. Why don't you guys just?
Dude, we've been saying that for so freaking long, man. Before I even moved out to LA, I was like, do I even need to be there? I have the internet. Nobody believed me, and then COVID was like, oh, wow, this technology works really good. I'm like, what if
maybe we should just keep doing it.
Okay, just listen to us.
That's funny. Well, so everybody knows your voice as the epic movie guy, the epic voice movie guy, the voice guy. I found you from with the I think it was the How It Should Have Ended, and of course the Honest Trailers stuff. But let's start. We'll start with Star Wars, and then we'll just go from there. So what's actually, let's even take a step further back. Let's just find out a little about you for the people who may not know who Jon Bailey, the epic voice guy, is. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am the son of Zeus. I fell from a mountain, and before time began, there was John. I was a nerd kid like everybody else, and I got into voiceover professionally totally by accident. It was something I was always interested in when I was growing up, and I didn't think of it as a job. We watched cartoons and things like Star Wars, where the voice of Yoda, and we were just like captivated with voices. And I've always been an audiophile since I was a little kid, but I didn't know it was a job.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool because when I did first get on, it was some random fluke. It's a long story, but I won't go fully into it. But through a fluke, through a pop-up ad on MySpace of all places, there was a local studio in Memphis, Tennessee, which I didn't think we had anything like that around. And they really liked me, like right off the bat. They showed them what I could do. And one of my very first jobs was Star Wars. And
yeah.
it was kind of, this has always been a funny story to tell at conventions and with fans ask me stuff, because it was a bittersweet phone call, and it should have been an amazing phone call because I do love Star Wars. It's such a freaking great franchise. I always find the good in things, regardless of what the haters have to say out there. There's just way too much haterade. I've just been the kid that's like, look, I'm just happy they're still making Star Wars stuff. I'm still happy that, and it looks cooler than the stuff I grew up with. So you know what I mean? I find the positive in those things. But like when they called, because I had done a Transformers audition around the same time that I did a Star Wars audition, and if anybody hasn't noticed, oh, that wrong side. I'm a huge Transformers fan.
Yeah.
And so she called. She's like, "Hey, I just want to let you know you booked the Transformers job." I'm like, "What? Freaking Transformers?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I meant the Star Wars job." I'm like, "Oh, cool. Star Wars. Yeah. Star Wars. I guess I'll go do that job." And I should have been ecstatic, but she kind of led with Transformers, and she just pulled the rug out from underneath me. So my first gig, I was the voice of Captain Rex for some toys and some commercials. So when Clone Wars was at the height, that's kind of how I learned about some of how the industry works, because D. Bradley Baker is the voice of Captain Rex as well as all the clones. And but he's only the voice for the AAA video game titles. If you don't know what a AAA game is, you know what a AAA game is. You're playing them probably. If it's on Steam, it's probably not a AAA game. Let's put it that way.
Right. If you can buy it in physical form,
yeah,
it's more likely to be a AAA game.
Yeah, so it just means a big main title that's across all platforms. So it's like AAA titles and the actual animated series and movies. That was the main actors and actresses. Now they just call them all actors, but back in my day, they called them actors and actresses. Hadn't even that long ago. And so I found out that the voices for toys, the voices for the commercials, everything that was like under those three things were voiced by sound-alikes. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. It was a legal thing that they didn't do. So I was D. Bradley Baker's sound-alike for Captain Rex and for a lot of the toy campaign. It was at least 3 or 4, maybe 5 commercials that were all national spots. And it was just like, on the Iceland of such and such, we scrapped those clankers. It was just all, voiceover, whatever. And, cool. It was really cool. It was a cool toy commercial. It was the kind of toy commercial that I was like, in my imagination, that's how cool it looked whenever I was playing with action figures. And then that kind of, and I auditioned also for Anakin Skywalker for the voice of the toys, but they didn't say what it was for. They just gave us a list of names. I actually have that toy in the other room. They give a list of just names. It wasn't even General Grievous or Captain Rex. It was just Grievous Rex. And then I got in the studio like, okay, so this is for a foreign toy that's outside of the US. So this will be the international version of this toy. So we can't use any words that can be translated into English. So only names. So you will be happy to know that the word Jedi is an international word.
Ah, very nice.
That was the only one we could use. Everything else had to be Ahsoka, R2, Rex, Grievous. It's just, I had to literally act without saying anything. It was a weird job. It was so fun. It was so weird. And then I got to be Captain Rex for a few toys as well. They're the clone trooper, like the half shell helmet that's got like 20 something phrases in it, as well as the Republic Attack Shuttle, which was like the big toy that year for Star Wars for Christmas. I was one of 3 clone voices in that. And then there was a really cool Target exclusive pack with the DVD in it, and I was the voice of Rex, giving a warning for all the bounty hunter set. So there was little stuff like that. I got to do a lot of that very early on, which I thought was amazing, kind of start my career off. And then crickets for 15 years. So,
really?
But most recently, I did some cool stuff which I just can't disclose, but I got to do some sound-alike work for 3PO and Mandalorian. This is the way. Wow. That was pretty cool.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, can't talk about it though. Sorry.
Well, hey, that's all right. Yeah, there's a surprisingly
the force may be strong, but NDAs are stronger.
Well, there's a surprisingly high number of our guests who are like, "There's things I want to tell you, but I can't. I've signed a piece of paper."
I gotta wait years for some of this stuff. And even with stuff like the stuff I work on, I know already. Like it's just a sound like it's just like filling in, but I get to know all the cool nerd stuff before you do.
So you
also sucks though, because then I can't say anything about it. What good's bragging when you can't even talk about it?
That's always the rough part, right? When you see the stuff and you're like,
exactly,
I know. So you saw Star Wars when you were a kid. What was some of your earliest Star Wars memories?
I didn't see the original trilogy in order. We did not go to the movie theaters, so I saw Empire Strikes Back first. And it came on NBC, and it was the Friday night movie of the week, that kind of thing. And it was like obviously censored for TV, so parts of it were cut. And I remember thinking I don't like Star Wars because it had a sad ending. I thought everything else about it was cool, but I was like, what? The good guys lose?
Right.
What the, and then I watched Return of the Jedi and I loved it because the good guys won. Right. And then I found out about New Hope. And I was like, this is a lot like the Return of the Jedi. I like Return of the Jedi better. So because I watched them out of order, right. I'm the one weirdo that likes Return of the Jedi better than New Hope. And my only other memory is my brother and I going to see Wing Commander just to see the Phantom Menace trailer. And that moron made me late. And all I got to see was Darth Vader's mask at the end. And it was like, and that Darth Vader's not even in Phantom Menace, guys. That was a complete rug pull.
Yeah, I feel like that's false advertising. I think
that
we
was
have a
very
case
much
of that.
All the trailers for Phantom Menace were false advertising. I'll be honest.
This is true.
The only honest trailer was the one that we made.
Was the honest trailer.
Exactly.
So what came first for you? You said that
the chicken.
You did the chicken.
Sorry,
it's always actually, oddly enough, I was just reading about. No, I was going to go into it. I was literally. Maybe I should get out more. The holidays are coming. Spend some time with friends and family. But so were you doing impressions first, or did you find that you had a movie type voice first when you were a kid? Like what?
I didn't even know about the trailer thing until I was a teenager. I started off obviously just doing impressions. Now there's a difference between impressions and sound-alikes.
Yes,
a lot of people don't understand the difference, but it's like a caricature you get at a flea market or carnival or something. Overly exaggerated cartoon head, giant features, whatever. That's an impression.
Right.
What I do is like taking a photo and putting on a photocopier or a printer,
right,
and pushing a button and it makes a copy. Kids don't know what a copy machine is.
There's glass and light. It's very interesting.
It's got lasers inside. It's a laser box that prints out things called paper. We murdered millions of trees to make these. So yeah, it's like just taking a copy of it. You're trying to make it as close to the original. It's almost like tracing over it,
right,
as opposed to drawing it exactly. Like you can, if somebody does artwork of Star Wars, for example, and they do a giant head pop figure style Boba Fett, whatever. We know it's Boba Fett, but if you want to do it like exactly the way he looks in the show, but you drew it that way, that's more like what I do. And visually, what I will say is like somebody that does Alex Ross type art detail would be like what a voiceover artist does when they voice match. Like it needs to be so freaking good that people have no idea it was even me or anybody else. It has to be like there was no sound alike at all. It was just that guy or that person.
Right. Now you've done sound alikes for, I guess, Ryan Reynolds and many others.
So many. You have to wear your brown pants.
So how did you for me? So it was very interesting as I was doing research and preparing to talk to you. Because again, as I said, I know you as the movie guy, right? That's where I first heard about you.
I like to say I'm the guy that nobody's heard, but everybody's heard of.
That right. So I was surprised that you. I mean,
or everybody's heard, nobody's heard of. There we go.
There you go. And I think that what's so interesting is like you have that deep voice, that very distinctive deep voice. And then when I read and found all the Ryan Reynolds stuff that you did, I was like, wait a second, how does that? But and that was when I started to dig in and learn more about the ADR stuff that you do. So how does that is there a particular set of voices that somebody's like, we need a John C. Reilly, let's call, is there a list somewhere? Like, how does that whole thing work?
Listen to me very carefully. I have a very particular set of voices. There's a red phone behind the Batcave, and they ring it up, and they're like, "Powerpuff Girls, we need a sound alike ASAP." It kind of is that way. It really is. They call it the golden chain. There's a reason why there's a booth in my bedroom. I'm not really allowed to leave. They need this stuff back so fast, and that's the main reason why they use sound alikes, because celebrities are extremely busy. Their schedules are nuts. I mean, they are the ones that I end up filling in for are probably overseas in Europe or, anywhere other than where they need to be to record something even halfway good quality.
Right.
Or it's like very early in the film and it's just storyboards and it's not even an animatic yet. So it's just like they have temporary. If you go to Hollywood ever, and you start getting these free screenings, and there's a lot of them out there. You wait in line forever and they let you see a movie early. there's a lot of films where it's like, this film is not finished. The complete edit will be this and this. You might hear this and see this. And the finished version, it will be like this. You may also hear voices that don't sound like. That's the reason why, because ADR people do that stuff early on in the production. And we also do the background voices, the looping. So any of the crowd work, the extra people that you see on screen. And it's a very big umbrella because it doesn't just cover films. It covers television shows. It covers stuff that's dubbed into English from other countries. Netflix bought a ton of foreign content and they had to dub all that in English. So I've done a lot of that as well. Anime is also ADR, dubbing over anything that's already pre-done and you're dubbing over it. Normal animation, like the way American animation is done, they record the voices first. And they have just outlines and maybe sketches and storybook stuff or storyboard stuff. And that's it. There's no like fully animated thing yet. So yeah, it's a little bit of everything. ADR is a very all-encompassing thing that covers a lot of different stuff. There's even movie trailers. For example, when they have a trailer for one that I worked on, just random off the top of my head, Snow White and the Huntsman. There was a part where Chris Hemsworth says a thing, but in the movie, they never fully explain. It's explained in the film, but he doesn't say it. And it's like, it doesn't make sense in the trailer unless you add on this. And he's like, so the original line was, why didn't you tell me? But without context, you have no idea. Why didn't you tell me what? So I had to change it to, why didn't you tell me who you are? And I had to do it so good that it starts off with his mouth moving and my voice, and then it blends together where you have no idea that he never has said that. And you watch the film and you're like, didn't they say this in the movie trailer though? That's one of those reasons why. So it's to explain things. Sometimes there'll be narration for the Seventh Son. I think I had to do a long, big intro for the Seventh Son of the Seventh Son, or was it the Giver? I can't tell. They're all the same. And there was a whole voiceover thing that was never in the film. That was just in the trailer. I did stuff like that. So it's a lot of different types of jobs. And I'm just happen to be really good at it. They literally send me, like you said, they send me an audition. They say, hey, we've got literally an hour, sometimes less. Can you get this done? Get it back ASAP. And I'll do my best to match it as good as I can, ship it off. If they like it, sometimes they just use it straight from the audition. Sometimes they'll have me do a directed session, sometimes as fast as that day.
Wow. And have you ever gotten one and you're like, that's a voice I can't do? I'd love to do it.
Of course. There's always ones that you're just like, Kevin Costner, I think, is one that I have trouble with because he's just kind of normal. He has an accent, like a New England accent, but there's not a lot there to hold on. And I book a few of those that are kind of like normal voices. Like Ryan Reynolds is pretty much normal voice, but I hacked out what little bit that makes his voice unique. Same thing for like Chris Pratt. I never thought I'd book that one. Jeff Bridges, never thought I'd book that one. I booked them. I just I revoiced engineered them from something that I knew I could do until I got to where it sounded like the real thing. And then they're like, oh, that sounds just like him. I'll just do that. I'm like, okay. Wow. I've even booked some that I know I did bad at, and yet they kept it in and people never noticed and didn't complain. For example, did you know that some of the stuff on the phone in Bullet Train is not Brad Pitt? I never thought I could book Brad Pitt in a million years because his voice is too freaking hard. The only person I've seen come close is Ross Marquand, who is the voice of Red Skull, and he's done some other voice work, but he's a very good sound-alike guy. He does a lot of ADR as well. He was Aaron in Walking Dead. A lot of people know him for that.
Right now, have you done on-screen work as well?
A little bit. I don't pursue it because, man, I'm just going to an audition takes a whole dang day. Yeah. And I can do 20 of those at home and not change my clothes. I can do it in my underwear if I want. I can do it naked if I want to. I was like, how are you guys going to know unless you're hacking my mainframe, bro? If I want to let it hang, I'm going to let the force hang out, bro.
Right. Next time you hear Epic Voice, I want everybody from now on, next time you hear Epic Voice guy somewhere, he just imagine he's not wearing any
naked
clothes.
In the booth, just sweating my balls off. Just a big pile of nasty sweat.
So
there's been a few sessions like in Memphis, man, the heat gets up to like 117 sometimes, and in the booth, and then the humidity is like 93%, and it's just, and I'm just like, it's like when you get out of the pool and you drop their clothes on the ground, like that's sweat though. It's like, so I just put towels down all around the booth so it doesn't make this whole booth smell like a locker room.
that sounded like a wet voiceover.
It was moist.
So, what are some of your favorite roles that you've had, and some of the favorite voiceovers or ADR roles that you've done?
My name is Optimus Prime. I'm 20 plus voices in multiple Transformers things, but the all-time, to this day, I have yet to top it because they're my two favorite characters in all of Transformers. But I was Shockwave and Soundwave in Bumblebee movie, and even though they don't have a lot of screen time, they look so freaking good and they sound amazing, and that's and it's me. That's the crazy part. It doesn't just sound great because it sounds great. It sounds great, and it's me.
Right.
Which that usually doesn't happen very often. Most people don't. It's
well, I mean,
that's really cool, but it's like somebody else's voice.
Well,
that was
tell me a little bit
cool,
about that because like Transformers, that was the cartoon. Like we knew that as kids, so the characters were the voices as much as Mark Hamill was Luke Skywalker. The voice, and boy, you're gonna kill me. Why can't I think
the
the guy's
Joker?
name?
You're welcome.
No, the guy who does Optimus Prime from
Peter Cullen.
Right, Peter Cullen. He just got that Lifetime Emmy, and I should have remembered his name. But like.
Is it an Emmy?
I think it was a Lifetime
Lifetime
Emmy.
Achievement Award, but I don't remember what.
I don't know
which one. I don't know. I think it's a Hollywood Science of Arts and some. I don't know. He won something. He won a Lifetime Achievement Award from somebody.
Right, and he earned it. Damn it! But so now you're in now. So you grew up with Transformers. You got the Transformers hat on. You're a huge Transformers fan, and now, like you said, you're watching Transformers, and it's you. Like, how does that make you like? That's like if I get the opportunity to do a voice for a clone or something, which of course I can't do because I don't have that skill set at all. But like, how does that feel? Tell me about the first time you saw it and when you booked that gig.
That's a long story that I won't take up the whole podcast for. But I got the audition for it, and I was like, hey, I'm not doing Optimus Prime's voice unless Peter Cullen is just not going to do it. If he's unable and unwilling, then yeah. But so they said, okay, well, let us check. And they went and they checked, and they came back, and there's like, he can't and won't / I won't go into details because I'm not here to make him look bad. And I'm like, well, if he's not going to do it, then I will, because I would rather it be me than some intern going Optimus Prime's here. So I booked three very brief sessions. It was like 3 in and out because there wasn't a lot of dialogue, but they kept changing the dialogue, and they were like, it's a lot easier to do it this way, and we finalize it, then Peter will come in, and I'm like, oh, cool. So I'm basically Peter Cullen's understudy. That's freaking amazing. Yeah. So while I'm there for those sessions, I get to see David Soboleff come in to do Blitzwing, and then Greta Lyle's there, and Steve Bloomer there to do Wheeljack and to do RC. And it's just really surreal, that I'm here for this thing. And then the last session I was there for, the week before I had auditions for several Transformers characters. They try to hide them, but I was like, I know who these guys are. Like, and then I got the auditions again. I'm like, I just did these though, and they were like, oh, it's some confusion. They went through a different company, and now we're doing them again. I'm like, okay, so I did them again, and then nothing. So I'm like, oh well, at least I tried. I can sleep at night. And while I was at the session, basically all those, I'm sorry for everybody out there who did those auditions too. They didn't listen to any of them, because when we got there, they're like, hey, we have a list of ancillary characters. Can you just write down which ones you've booked before? And of course, I do them all, but I hadn't booked them before. Now I can say up, but then I couldn't. And Steve Bloom's there, who's worked on tons of freaking Transformers stuff. And he's like, done it, haven't done. They left me like 2 characters. I'm like, yay. And one of them actually got cut. In fact, I think both of them may have been cut. Because it was 3 of them. It was Ratchet, Brawn, and Ironhide. And Ironhide and Ratchet got cut for their lines anyway. Ratchet may have had that. I can't remember now which one of them actually said something. Anyway, so I did those 2, and I was like, yeah. And before I left, I was like, would you mind if I read for some of these other characters? Because I've been doing Transformers for a long freaking time, and I'm really good at these. He said, you want exact sound alikes from the original cartoon. And literally, I've been working on that for 30 years. So I started going through them, and Travis Knight, I didn't even know it was Travis Knight. I just thought it was the guy that was working at Paramount at the time, because I didn't look him up. He's not like M. Night Shyamalan or George Lucas. So you don't know what he looks like off the top of my head. You don't see Travis Knight today did such and such. Never seen it. Correct. So he's like, dude, you're blowing my mind, man. You sound just freaking like him. I was like, dude. And I started talking to him about the different voices and about some of the history, where they came up with the voices for it. And he was like, man, you really know your stuff. I'm like, dude, I researched thoroughly for this role and these roles. And then I heard later on during a session, I was working at 6 Underground. And while I was at Michael Bay's studio, the engineer was like, hey, I worked with you on Bumblebee. You probably didn't see me because I was behind the glasses. Oh, cool. Nice to meet you. And he's like, that Peter Cullen heard your voice, right? I'm like, uh-oh, you didn't tell him who it was. I don't want to get the guy mad. I'm just filling in. He's like, well, he came in and they played the temp track for him. And he goes, uh-oh. Or no, he goes, he said, what was that? And then Travis Knight says, it was good, right? And he turns and goes, uh-oh. And that was the whole interaction. And I'm just like, okay, well, that's not too bad, So anyways, he said when they were looking for he was just letting me know how I got the job. You never get to hear these stories. So it was kind of cool that I got to find this out. And he's like, so we were going through the characters, and he said, what about Shockwave and Soundwave? And so I looked at him and was like, it's got to be Jon Bailey, though, right? I mean, and he looked at me, he's like, yeah, it's got to be. Like, who else could it be? It's got to be Jon. So I was like, wow, that's pretty cool that I owe both of those guys my favorite 2 roles and all of that. And it was this on-screen credit, like at the end, that was just really cool. But it checked off such a huge bucket list for me because I never wanted to replace Peter Cullen. Right. I'm happy being his understudy, but I never wanted to be Optimus Prime and things. I'm happy to be things that, you know, he can't run. Like there's some things he won't do, like mobile games and stuff that he's like, that's not worth my time. Or he's just not in poor health for or whatever. There's always a reason, but I'm always like, I'm double checking to make sure he can or won't before I'm even going to submit. But to be able to do that and be like, oh, that's awesome. But to be able to be other Transformers, my favorite 2, by the way, but to be other Transformers alongside Optimus Prime, voiced by Peter Cullen, was like a childhood dream. Always. Not to replace him, but to work on something with him. And there's a scene where literally me, him, me. And I'm like, that is the coolest thing. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to top that.
That's amazing. That's so cool. And again, I mean, clearly it's funny. I think I feel like some of the Transformer fandom level is right there with all the other major fandom groups. So it's amazing that you got to achieve that level. That's really,
thanks, man.
That's so cool. Those are the stories I love. And you know what I'm seeing also with a lot of the Star Wars people, the people who are making Star Wars now are Star Wars fans. The people who are involved in Transformers.
Dude, I was at the studio a couple of weeks ago. Dave Filoni just walks in. I'm like, what? You know how hard it was to keep my mouth shut and sit there and wait to be called into my session when Dave Filoni's standing 4 feet away from me and not going, I was the voice of Captain Rex with some toys. And I did Anakin Skywalker. And then never worked for Star Wars ever again.
Right. Who's this guy?
Get him out. He looked over at me and I didn't even know what he said. I had to literally block. He's like, I'm not going to get engaged. I'm not going to involve. He looked at me. I was like, that's all I did. I put my head back down. I was not going to be like, I know who you are. Because he was talking about how he got on a plane in New York at 4:30 a.m. Then they flew through the Santa Ana winds. And if you're not in LA and you don't know California, Santa Ana winds are nightmares, especially for planes. The winds are blowing like 80 miles an hour. And they had to fly through that. And they'd just gotten there. And I was like, I'm not going to bug him. I'm just gonna let him do
now
his
is
job.
not the time to make my introduction.
That was the worst time for me to make myself known to Dave Filoni.
That's fantastic. So you're known for doing the honest trailers and the how it should have ended and
Annoying Orange, they're still going.
Yeah.
I'm in Animaniacs. I was in an episode of Muppets Mayhem. I'm in tons of games. This year alone, I'm in Street Fighter 6. I'm in System Shock, Evil Dead game, New World, a bunch of Transformers mobile games, and Throne and Liberty, I think. I think that one's out now.
Wow.
Sure. And then there's a couple other ones. And Marvel Snap. I'm the announcer for Marvel Snap too.
Oh, snap.
Apparently that's a pretty popular one.
It is, well, man, if it's just half as popular as the number of ads I see from Marvel Snap every time I go online, it's if the ads are working.
They put a lot of effort into their marketing, man. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, where I was going with this though is when you started doing the honest trailer stuff, it was a time when the internet was a little bit more fun. Is kind of the way to put it. Where you
opposed to what it is now.
What I mean by that is, you know, there's sort of this. There's poking fun in good fun at, you know, movie mistakes and things like that, and now there's a whole freaking YouTube business of people just ripping movies apart.
We were OG.
Yeah, you did, and so what I'm have you
people
noticed
getting famous, man, is off of just talking about movies, and everybody treats them like they're freaking Siskel and Ebert.
Right. Well,
insert reference for movie critic here that you would know because I'm not old, but
Siskel and who now? But
one of them's dead. That's how old they are. Rest in peace, man. I was not trying to be insensitive. That's just how old I am. It's a long time ago.
How old I am and how old they are.
But see, now people like my buddy Straw Hat Goofy are just becoming like this quintessential fan critic. I don't know what else to call it. It's not you're not an official, and they even say that, like, I'm just giving my thoughts on the freaking movies. I'm just a fan. They're the people that the audience score is based on Rotten Tomatoes. Right. And then more people are listening to them because they're giving more honest reviews. They're not being bribed. They're not giving their stupid, no offense, but artsy fartsy thoughts on, blah, 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 blah. Is it a cool movie? Did you enjoy it? That's what we want to know. What cool things were in it? What crappy things will we not convince me to see or not to see? That's all. I get tired of critics' reviews because you can't trust them. Because what we learned from Rotten Tomatoes is people can buy their own freaking reviews and make their movie look better than it is. Trust the audience score. Do not trust the critic score.
Yeah, and even that, now with review bombing and things like that, it's so hard to tell. I always just tell people
Or just trailer reactions. Just there's so much dedicated to this, like our thoughts and opinions on films, and we were just like, we've been doing this for 10 years.
right. So when you started it, and literally, like I point back to you guys all the time, is like that was, and it was done in good faith. It wasn't an attempt to either bring an agenda from one side or another, or to beat somebody down, or if you didn't like something. I mean, and that's again,
they try to be fair, and to be fair, I don't make them. Number one, this is a common misconception. Number one, I don't make them. Number two, I'm not the writer. Number three, it's not my channel. Number four, I'm just the voice talent, but I do improvs. I try to keep them on track. Like, for example, we did one and they had the name wrong. I'm like, hey, this is not this. This is it. They're like, oh, how do we miss that? I was like, I don't know. This is version 5 of the script. I thought you guys were nerds. So we just work together as a team to make it the best product we can. So we're always trying to constantly check each other, because we will get called out just as bad as anybody else if we make a mistake based on something, when we're like, oh, that was a wrong reference or wrong whatever. But we don't like nitpick the thing to death like Cinema Sins do, or just people who just do artsy fartsy boring, like, here's a movie, here's what happened. We're just more like, here's what, if a movie trailer was telling you what this movie really was about, instead of promoting it for you to watch it and not talking about anything else other than that, here's what this movie would be about. And we're going to make references to things and do it in a comedic, funny way that's not too harsh and too cruel, but also is very entertaining, and a different way to do kind of a movie critique. That's the word I'm looking for.
So between working with that team, being now in the business, do you find, I mean, obviously it would be a stupid question to say, do you look at movies differently? Because obviously you do, because you know so much about what's going on behind. But has that changed the way you enjoy the movies? Because you were saying you were a kid nerd, like a lot of us. Has it changed it in any way, or lessened it in any way, I guess is where I'm going, or made it better maybe?
Two things have changed, but for two different reasons. One thing has changed because of what the work I do professionally. And then Honest Trailers being the second reason. But I was always the kid that was like, hey, that didn't, I was one that attached. I was like, why did they, they're being quiet, but they're yelling, and they're literally one room away, and the bad guy doesn't hear them. Like, my brain has always thought that way.
Right.
Honest Trailers only amplified that more. Now I can't help but Honest Trailer a thing in my head, because I know what I'm going to, because I know I'm going to eventually be working on this thing. So I'm getting a little ideas now just in case, but it doesn't affect my enjoyment of the film. It just affects it affects my focus. I can't just focus on the film and not constantly thinking that way. But then the ADR part of me is like, oh man, that's bad. I'll give you an example. People are going to hate me for this. I don't think that Killing of the Flower Moon was that great of a film. From a technical standpoint, there was a lot of bad mistakes with the ADR. The lip sync was off in multiple places. There was so many edits that was like, man, I can't believe, how did nobody see or hear this? Like, I feel like this is stuff that somebody with the screen right in front of them and headphones on while they're editing a film would notice. That's a really bad dub right there. We should fix this badly. That's what they mean by fix it in post, and they didn't fix it in post. And no offense, but when you're going for Best Picture, shouldn't you be better at that stuff?
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, those two things, because I can instantly tell when something's been re-recorded or since it's been changed, or that guy's voice is not even close to that guy's voice. We were watching a movie the other day, and the guy, the therapist person's on one side, and he did not. It was Killers of the Flower Moon. There was a doctor guy in there. His voice, you could tell his voice was not his voice at all. Like they didn't even think about recording somebody in, adding room noise to make it sound like he's even in the same place. His voice sounded crystal clear, like it was in a movie studio or a recording studio, and then everybody else in the room sounded like they were in a freaking room. And it didn't match him at all. It sounded nothing like the way he looked. And I'm like, he must have been one of those guys like, so guys, and they had to record him because his voice was, I don't know, but it was like, man, that's an obvious thing for me that I saw, not even Honest Trailering it, just noticing it from technical standpoints. Like, that was terrible ADR.
Yeah. So it's being in the businesses has made you pick up on things differently.
I kind of can't help it anymore. Like, I was watching Argo, at the very beginning of Argo, and the guy's like, and he's like, dude, that voice sounds nothing like. His mouth is moving to a completely different thing than the audio that came out.
Wow.
I can't. Once you do the job, you can't. And once I explain it to people, it's like, man, you shattered the glass ceiling or glass wall or whatever. Now I can't unsee it when I watch it. Like, or I'm thinking like, is that John's voice right there?
So you the ADR is where is the career part. Do you do impressions for fun? Do you do impressions for?
I do impressions for social media. I don't put any effort into sound-alikes on social media because I'm not getting paid for it, guys.
Right.
Let's
be real.
You're gonna have to pay me a whole heck of a lot more to do you a really good sound-alike because I'm doing that in a professional studio setting, not on my front of my cell phone. But for views and for growing my social media following, that helps me get more jobs. Like that stuff, I'll just whatever, especially on live streams, I'll be like, do Mickey Mouse. I'm like, oh my God. Could you throw me any slower of a softball, please? And every once in a while, I'll give you a great example. Though. I went to my kids' what voice was it he said he could do? No, I remember what it was. So I went to my kids. It was a kindergarten class. Kindergartners, by the way. And they had this thing called Star Student Week. And each day a different set of parents would come because that kid was Star Student of the Week. And they could have lunch with the kid at the lunchroom, and then they could go back to the class. And usually they'd have the parents read a book before they left. Well, I should never ask a voice actor to read a book. All of a sudden, they want me to read 50 books because I'm doing voices. So they were like, do this voice and do that voice. And one kid, it was like, it was what you would expect. It was SpongeBob. And then one kid goes, Nicolas Cage. I'm like, that's my kid right there. I think I need to swap out mine for that one because that one's like, yeah, freaking do a good one. I'm like, whoa, this kid really knows his stuff.
Oh, that's great. So you're getting voice requests from kids and they're asking for Nicolas Cage.
It's kind of nice when a kindergartner can ask me for a better request than most people on TikTok do. People want the basic stuff. They're like, can you do Scooby-Doo? Can you do Mickey Mouse? I'm like, come on, guys. I can do so much better than those. Anybody can do those.
So who's some of your favorites to do that?
Well, definitely not Stitch, Mickey Mouse, or anybody from Family Guy, because that's the number one things kids want to hear. My favorite voice has always been Optimus Prime's voice.
Sure.
And it's pretty equal with Ryan Reynolds' voice, just because that one makes everybody laugh and everybody smile. And even Ryan Reynolds likes my impression of it. And then I would say, that's hard to say, man. That's a good question because there's so freaking many that I really love to do. But yeah, it's those two. But Keith, as far as favorite voices, I don't necessarily do, but I can do an impression of it. Keith David is my right there with Peter Cullen, best voice of all time.
Yeah.
And if you don't know who Keith David is, you should be ashamed of yourselves. Go watch a movie or literally anything. Play a video game. You're gonna hear Keith David.
That's great. Oh man, that's funny. So we'll turn a little bit back to Star Wars a little bit, but after you did the honest trailers for the Star Wars movies, did you look at them differently than you did when you were a little kid?
No, I did not.
It was just fun
because they started their first one without me. By the way, I was not on the first couple of them, but it was for Phantom Menace. They didn't do the old movies yet, so even watching those, I'm like, dude, we've watched them so many times. We already know every single film.
Right. We know where the mistakes are.
We love them because of their flaws, because it makes it feel more realistic to me. It's like when I got so excited when James Gunn got in there and he was like, oh, we're going to have all these practical effects, but then he just shoves them in your face and he leaves them on camera for a long time. Yeah. So just in case you missed the practical effects that we spent so much time on and told you about, make sure you go back and see it. We put it this close to the screen. So you can... I'm like, dude, did Lucas do that? No, he spent a lot of time and effort on effects that were there for half a second.
Yep.
Do you know how many action figures they had to go through scouring through the Mos Eisley Cantina to make action figures for? Because they were so well blended in. It just felt freaking real. It felt better then than it does now. Now it's just like, oh, these are the real ones and these are the computer animated ones. And look how real these are. These are practical over here. Look at this. Look at this. I was like, if it's good, you shouldn't have to shine that big of a spotlight on it. For some reason, practical effects have gotten more fake looking. You'd think they would be better. The technology is supposed to advance, not go backward. How did Jim Henson do so much better a job?
Yeah, I remember actually reading an article during Return of the Jedi being filmed, and where Lucas said, because they built the whole sail barge for Jabba the Hutt, and he said, a lot of filmmakers fall in love with showing the effort that they put into creating the effects, and that's exactly what it is. And now it's set piece after set piece, and it's a little bit of forgotten there. So,
well, now they got this newfangled technology that George Lucas had imagined back in the day, basically building an LED set where the floor and the walls and everything is just, you're there.
Yep.
And it makes it a very, very quick to make production. So you only have to make some set pieces, but it also kind of sucks because you can tell that all that is not practical anymore. We kind of just know. And as cool as the technology is, I'm like, okay, why can't we combine technologies? Why can't you go out and film a practical set and then film the set? Film the whole freaking thing from every possible angle and then bring that into the digital stage. Separate your crews, speed up production time.
Yeah, it's funny.
Then you don't have to have your actors out in the freaking desert or in the freaking freezing weather or anything like that, but it still looks freaking real because you really went out and did it. I don't know. Whatever.
It's funny.
I'm not a director. What do I know? We have such high expectations for Star Wars for some reason.
Oh, yeah, well, they'll call you when they need somebody to do the voice. Don't you worry about.
I'm just going to do the narcissistic thing. It's all Star Wars' fault. You're the one that started off setting the bar too high in the first place. What happens when you set the bar too high? When you first get married, you don't do a huge Valentine's Day the first year. No, you give them one box of chocolates. That when you because when you start up here, man, and when you do like rose petals and like there's flowers and you made your cake and there's like then the bar is there forever and you have to keep raising it forever. Way to go, Lucas. You started up here instead of bringing it down here with Buck Rogers.
You will never make it. You'll never make anybody happy again, which is, I think that's
it
what
would
the
have been
internet's
successful,
about, right?
but he did really he raised the bar too high.
Oh my gosh. It's so funny. We just did a show the other night where we were talking about the shows and movies that were inspired by Star Wars, and we were watching little clips from them, and it's like, yeah, Lucas and Lucasfilm and our Industrial Light and Magic, they captured it, and then like the layers below, the steps below it were so far below and so hard to get to, right? So
I don't understand. I watched The Toys That Made Us, and it made so much sense, but at the same time I'm like, what was he thinking? Because he did all these things for the toy rights to get back from the whole thing was about toys, and then he made Phantom Menace, and I'm like, dude, you didn't think making these things look cool would sell so many more toys? Instead it backfired, and then he didn't sell nothing. They sat in shelves and they went on huge discounts. I was like, man, this was your chance, dude, to make back all that freaking money that you lost with the Hasbro deal you got screwed with.
Oh, I have boxes of unopened Phantom Menace toys.
There's billions of unopened Phantom Menace toys out there that nobody owns because nobody wants to own them.
Right. There's the Raiders of the Lost Ark sort of warehouse full.
I'm telling you, dude. In the post-apocalyptic Fallout or whatever we end up with at the end of time, there's going to be our surviving human race are going to stumble into an ET type thing where they're like, what in the world's going on here? Why are there so many unopened toys of the same movie? It's just going to be like the temple of the Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's nothing but Phantom Menace toys.
Yeah, just endless.
They have top people working on it. Top people.
Oh man, that's funny. All right, so
somebody's going to come along and be like, "These toys belong in a museum."
Now that's a
I shot first. Gosh,
it's funny. Oh man, talk about a guy whose voice has literally changed. So as a voice guy, did you watch Dial of Destiny? I have to ask.
Yes, of course.
Okay. The only thing
old white males watch Dial of Destiny.
It's true. I think we were obligated.
We were the only ones that showed up.
It's very true.
40+ olds were the only white people that were going to see.
Are you 40 or over? Well,
44.
You have plans this weekend. There you go.
Exactly.
Are you 40 or over? Then get ready for your dad's favorite film.
But so as it relates to
since
voice,
he's dead, there's a chance for you to feel that nostalgia by going to see this movie and watching Indiana Jones run around on anything with wheels because he can't run. He can barely walk fast.
Oh man, that's funny. But I did have a question.
Needs writers. Just kidding. We love you, writers. Just kidding.
Oh man, it's funny. But did you notice? For me, like, I noticed Harrison's voice on the de-aged Harrison sounded like old Harrison, and that's the only reason the de-aging didn't work for me.
Yeah. Well, Lex Lang, buddy of mine, usually does Harrison Ford's voice for everything else. So he's been Lego, Han Solo, and tons of stuff. I kind of feel like they should have done that. How good was Grand Admiral Tarkin, in Rogue One?
Oh my gosh.
How great was that?
So
if they'd done a little bit better with the deep fake technology, it would have been that's Steven Stanton. That's not a deep fake voice or AI voice or anything. That's Steven Stanton. And they did a really good job. Get a good sound alike, man. And Harrison Ford is not Harrison Ford anymore. He can't sound that way. If he tried, he couldn't.
Right.
You couldn't put enough. You couldn't put a 1944 gun to his head and make him sound that way. It's just not going to happen.
Right. And I think that's the really important thing. It's not
the walls of P-38 to his head, and Indiana Jones cannot sound like a young man anymore because he doesn't have the dial of destiny. Every Indiana Jones Nazi all sounds the same.
they really do. They really do.
I am kind of glad they're like, finally, they brought some Nazis in.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I thought we were gonna have to upgrade to Russians or something for the new movie.
Yeah.
Like, you're running out of communists.
Well, people had issues
in the games. It was China. It was like, oh, they're still communists. I guess that counts. They're bad guys.
Well, that's true. I mean, Crystal Skull had its issues, but if we break it down, it's probably because it was Russians and not Nazis. Otherwise, it would have been a great
It's
movie.
Russian communists and not Nazi, not German communists.
Yeah,
It all depends on what country they come from. It depends, they just, I don't know why people just still hold on that Germans are the best Nazis.
Well, I mean, and let's face it, the German accent.
Like, we was OGs.
You could say "I love you" in German, and it sounds rough. It's
I
rough.
apologize to everybody, the former military, and all the families and everything else.
Epic
This
Voice
is how I
got
got
canceled.
canceled.
That's right. Well, hey, with a name like
Talking about
Fletcher,
Indiana
it's
Jones.
German. I'm German, and so I'm allowed. Is that what the Seinfeld
Okay,
thing
yeah,
was?
and I can make
right.
fat jokes because
Well, so we do this thing on the show where we do 10 questions, and they're sort of like behind the actor's studio. They're not there's no wrong answers, but the internet will judge you. So
they already do.
They already do. I'm sure they
Yeah,
do. So let me hit you with our first Star Wars-y question. What's your favorite Star Wars movie, TV show, or book?
Favorite. Oh, I think I'm still gonna go with Return of the Jedi. Sorry.
Yeah.
Book though, Splinter in the Mind's Eye.
Oh, the OG book. The
And
one
I also have a favorite Star Wars game as well. Dark Forces, The Force Unleashed. It's a freaking fantastic freaking game. It's so over the top, ridiculous, stupid that I love it.
Yeah, now
Everybody else is out there towards the I'm like freaking blasting TIE fighters with electric balls of lightning.
Right.
Thinking like this is never gonna happen in a movie, but holy crap, this is fun.
Exactly. Well, then everybody who
like Wreck-It Ralph if he was a Sith Lord. I'm gonna use the Force.
Well, the thing with the like Sam Witwer is just Star Wars lore.
He was Sam
as I'm sure
was
you
the
are.
guy in Force
Yes,
Unleashed.
exactly.
I saw him. Dude, it's so funny because I forgot that he was also the voice of Darth Maul and a bunch of other stuff. But I saw him in an arcade in Silver Lake, and it's like, where the frick do I know that guy from? I know him, and it was from Force Unleashed.
Yeah,
all this time it wasn't anything else he's done. It was a freaking video game.
Yep.
So I didn't even know the real version of him. I knew the computer animated mocap version of him, and I still recognize him. So that's pretty good on me.
Yeah. No,
I was decided. I was like, it's probably Vampire Diaries or Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's got to be. He looks like he murders vampires or is a vampire that gets murdered by somebody else.
That's an astute observation. I would agree with that 100%.
He really has Twilight vibes going, man.
Yeah. Well, I think I can guess this next question, but I'm going to ask anyway. What's your favorite non-Star Wars movie?
That's a great question. Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, great one. Excellent. That's
first time I watched Shawshank Redemption. I ruined it. First time I watched Shawshank Redemption was 1942. Jon Bailey walked into his bedroom as if he didn't have a care in the world with a bucket of popcorn and a VHS player.
Bravo.
You're welcome. That's the landing, at least.
we'll let it at the first part. Don't worry.
Rocky start.
Every Star Wars fan has one or two at least, but what's your favorite Star Wars collectible that you own?
That is a good one.
And you might actually voice it. I mean, that's the...
It is. It is. My favorite Star Wars collectible are those toys that I have that I had the voices for. Got the Republic Attack Shuttle, got the Clone Wars mask, and I got the Anakin Force Action Battler, which it's only an international version, so you guys don't even have the same version I have unless you got it outside the US. So it's even more exclusive. So I had a friend/fan that like found it over in the UK and is like, "Is this you?" I'm like, "Yeah, it is." He's like, "Dude, I'm sending this to you." I'm like, "Oh,
that's awesome.
that's cool." Can't remember his name. Sorry, what's your face? that was like 15 years ago. So sorry.
Hey, we can't expect anybody to remember.
I'm old now. I have an excuse. I'm old and I'm white, and I don't have to remember things. Apparently, that's a thing old white people don't have to do. Is they don't have to remember stuff anymore.
All right. Well, let's hit the memory. And what's your favorite Star Wars sound effect?
I think to this day it's probably still the lightsaber ignition sound. Just that, not the de-ignition or whatever the proper term is. I'm not an uber nerd, but when you ignite the lightsaber and that's just the freaking coolest sound. When I saw how they made it, like that's freaking cool. That's so good. And TIE Fighter would be close second, because that just, every time I go through traffic and a car goes by that has like really loud brakes or something, and it's, I'm like, oh, that's a TIE Fighter heading down the 101.
That's great. Yeah, and both those sounds, I've said it on the show before, but it's true. Both those sounds, if Star Wars didn't exist and you just heard those sounds, they would make no sense.
Blown away.
They would just be
I would
weird.
still be blown away. I was, I have a feeling a lot of people that didn't see Star Wars because they were too little at the time probably heard those sound effects in cartoons like G.I. Joe and Transformers. They used the same audio library from Skywalker Ranch. So I don't know. I guess it was ILM, the early stages of ILM, but there's a lot of like when Optimus Prime ignites his thing and it goes, and they have the lightsaber sounds when they're attacking each other with their laser weapons. I'm like, I know these sounds.
Where have I heard this before? It's like
the Cybertron kind of looks like the Death Star, doesn't it? I'm just saying.
There you go. It's the Wilhelm scream, right? That's
pretty much. That was also, by the way, Star Wars fact. That was the scream in Dark Forces when you fell off of anything. It was.
Yep.
That's my third favorite sound effect in Star Wars. Is the Wilhelm scream.
And now you hear it everywhere, and it's
now it's just normal people. Everybody sounds like that these days. They just
poor Wilhelm.
Must be Tuesday.
So the next question is what or who, I guess it's who, is your favorite droid?
Favorite droid was, I always liked the guy that brought Luke back to life in the Bacta tank in Empire Strikes Back. I don't know why. I just thought he was a really cool design. And you know what? I think I know why. Do you know what his face is made out of?
I do, but I'm gonna let you tell us.
It's made out of an old school radio microphone, the old silver chrome looking ones, and that's probably why subconsciously I'm like, that's a cool one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as far as I feel like as a voice actor, I should say, as far as droid voices go, I always really liked, "You're a feisty little one, but you'll soon learn some respect. Fit him with a restraining bolt and put him on board his master's sail barge." I think I had a great voice.
Yeah. Yes. Yep. You're. Yeah. I'm trying to remember. Is that Evie? I don't know.
I don't remember what the character.
I'm a nerd, but I'm like I have like. I'm gonna say like I'm a B+ nerd. I don't like. I can't.
Yeah, I'd like to say that I'm an average nerd. I'm not an uber nerd where I don't know. Did you know in frame 3,576 of Star Wars you can see like Luke Skywalker's left pinky wiggle? Like I don't. Sorry, Morty. I don't understand that references because I'm not an idiot. I spend my time learning more important things like how to survive.
Rick and Morty. It's funny. I people all the time like want to challenge me to Star Wars trivia. I'm like, you're gonna win. You're gonna win.
You're gonna win easily. Because I promise, I don't know what the name of that.
It's not gonna be that much fun for either one of us, to be honest with you. I can,
I thought Bosk was the name of a planet for the longest time. So
there you go.
And then I thought it was a stapler. Tell you what. Somebody's gonna get that joke. Be like, off a supply product humor. Boss staplers. Haven't heard that in a few years.
Finally, I've been waiting for somebody to make a stapler joke on this podcast.
I was going to end my life today until I heard that joke, and it turned everything around for me. Dad jokes are still alive.
Thank you, Jon Bailey. You did it.
You rescued dad jokes from oblivion.
Oh man. Okay, so
so dumb.
Which Star Wars character would you most like to be and why?
Oh man, I don't really feel like that's such an open-ended question. But I feel like I kind of gravitate in real life. I'd be a Jedi. I'd be one of the ones that get murdered pretty quick. Unalive, I'm sorry, whatever the term is these days. I'd be the one that gets sussed into the airlock the fastest. I always saw myself as kind of a KOTOR character, like Knights of the Old Republic 2. There was some really dope characters in there. But I just overall design, I think Cad Bane, man. Cad Bane is one of the coolest freak. I thought Admiral Thrawn was cool until I saw what he looked like in real life.
Blue eyes,
And
red
the whole
eyes.
time I kept saying,
Blue-
like, they're gonna get the guy from Patriot. They're gonna get that British guy from Harry Potter. That guy with he looks just like. And they just got the guy that does the voice, but I'm like, man, I'm not gonna say. I feel like I should be able to say because as a big guy, I could say, but I'm not gonna say. He's just less intimidating when he looks like he's been sitting at the table most of the time. But Cad Bane looks freaking crazy cool in animated version and live action version. And man, that character is cool.
And honestly, Cad Bane's voice is one of my favorite Star Wars.
It is a really good voice, and I really like it a lot. Been a long time since I had to kill me a Jedi. That's another Steven Stanton character, I believe.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. I'm actually looking across. I have a Steven Stanton autograph sitting right across my.
I know Steve's a good guy.
Yeah, he's really cool. Okay, this I feel like this for some people this is a tougher question, but for you, I'm going to ask you: what is your? Do you have and what is it? Your unpopular Star Wars opinion?
My unpopular Star Wars opinion was that Rogue One is a freaking great movie, and you guys are stupid if you don't like it. I get your complaints. I'm not saying I don't. I know everybody kind of sounds cardboard, and they're acting. They're going on a suicide mission, guy. I'm sorry, an unalive mission, guys. They know they're all going to die. Would you be happy? I'm just saying, unless they were all popped up on spice. See, I know a few nerd references. The only negatives about that film that I had was that it was very difficult because there were so many freaking accents to understand the characters' names very clearly without subtitles. That was a little bit of a technical thing. I was like, okay, why does everybody have to have an accent? Can you get one or two people that sound that way? You've got your bases covered. You can have other accents because you include other countries. You can release this in other words. Like, oh, I identify with this person with it. But yeah, for some of us though, that have trouble just understanding just words, because we're old. Just saying. Anyway, but other than that and the cardboard acting, that was a fantastic freaking film. Excuse me. Kudos to Alan Tudyk. I hate you because you're Optimus Prime now, and it should have been me, but I love all your other characters. And that K2SO is one of the best, man. That was probably I should have picked him for my favorite droid. I forgot about K2SO.
Yeah.
He's up there, man. He's probably right up there.
Yeah.
It's probably him and then Medic Droid.
No, honestly, K2 is my favorite now, and
that's saying a lot because I love David Tennant. I don't like the design of his droid. I'm sorry. Unpopular opinion. Food. There you go. There's no problem. I don't like the way he's designed. He looks too human to me. He looks weird. He looks like an animatronic toy, and it's a small world. I'm sorry.
Well, it is certainly it's like a more retro looking humanoid droid.
They did this thing in a lot of the new shows. They had this like the old 50s cars, but they're flipped upside down and they're hovercraft and like doing these droids that look like they come from the 50s. And I'm like, I don't like the 50s style droids, man. Just make them look like droids. What the They're supposed to be practical, not look cool or look a certain style. Like, oh, I'd like the 50s versions of the Botmatic 3000, please. I mean, he looks like he julienne's fries, doesn't he?
He might.
Not Trains Jedi. Why does he look like a freaking cake mixer from 1925?
Trains Jedis and makes bread. That's
pretty much. He uses a lot of the Force and he bakes.
All right.
You know how many midichlorians are in bread? I'm trying to watch my midichlorian count right now, guys. Seriously, like packing on a lot of Force lately. I prefer to do low chlorine, low midichlorian foods if you don't mind, like the blue milk. Blue milk's good. It's low midichlorian.
I had to get a blue milk.
It does a body blue.
Oh man! All right. So, if you could own any spaceship or vehicle from Star Wars, what would it be?
Oh, that's an easy one. It'd be the Millennium Falcon.
That would be the Falcon, right?
And it would be right behind it would be the actual Star Destroyer from the film because when I was working on Transformers session. She used to work on Star Wars. I'm like, oh man, I was working on Star Wars and she used to work on Transformers. And she mentioned that she'd been to Skywalker Ranch and she'd actually seen the 7-foot Star Destroyer on the freaking like conference table. I'm like,
oh my gosh,
freaking blows my mind. So those two are neck and neck. I used to love the Slave one, and now it's stupid drama over the name. So I just like, forget it. Let's pick a different ship. The Servant one. I don't know. What do you guys want from me? I don't know. The paid employee one, the mercenary one, but freaking It's just the name of a ship. It doesn't mean nothing. Somebody just thought it sounded cool. That's how it works.
That's where these names come from. Exactly.
So many jokes I could make, but I will not.
No,
that would get me canceled.
You're probably better off.
Kidding, guys. I'm kidding. People think I'm Drax or something. They take me so seriously, literally, when I'm messing around with it.
Sense of humor is critical.
I thought comedy was safe. Apparently,
Nope.
nothing's safe.
Nothing is safe anymore, for sure. Okay. What is your favorite Star Wars moment?
I feel like this is 15 questions at this point.
I know these questions. I was actually just saying. I think it's, you know what it is, because you're having fun with them and you're.
What question are we even on right now?
This is the second to last. We're almost done.
Okay. What was the question again? I was just curious. I'm getting hot in here, man.
Yeah. What's your favorite Star Wars moment?
Favorite Star Wars moment. Dang it. That's hard to say, man. I guess it was probably what everybody else's was. It was the Luke. No, Luke, I am your father. That kind of quintessential moment was like, what? But again, that was the first. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. The quintessential moment. My favorite moment in Star Wars was when they took down the chicken walker in Return of the Jedi with the logs. That was so well animated and funny at the same time. That one in the AT-AT getting taken down by the speeder, which was more cool than funny and cool at the same time. But I don't know. Chicken Walker, that was great. That was so freaking good and well done for the animators and special effects guys.
Oh my gosh, especially at that time, for sure.
It's so much better than anything anybody's made since.
Yep. Yeah, I love that.
And the rank. And I'll be fair, I feel like it should get a shout out. The Rancor monster was. I thought that thing was real. The way its head breathed, that was cool, man.
Yeah, for sure.
I was a big fan of the practical effects were what sucked me into Star Wars. It was just so freaking good. Blew my mind. And the sound guys freaking saved that movie. They really did. Yeah. When they decided, like, you know what, we should ADR this whole thing. And thank you, Star Wars cast, for being good at ADR. Because I've seen movies that are bad at ADR, and you could have ruined Star Wars with the first film that came out if you'd done a bad job.
Right.
So the people who did the ADR, the sound effects guys, the editor, mixers, and John Williams, you saved that film from being just another Buck Rogers ripoff.
It's true. I mean, it's funny. Like I said before, you watch the movies that came after that, they all the lasers sound the same. All the, everything was.
And they sound ridiculously hokey. Pew pew. Pew, pew.
Right. Yeah, Ben Burt created that world, man. Absolutely, without a doubt. All right, now the last question. You finally made it. What is your go-to Star Wars quote? Your go-to Star Wars quote?
My go-to Star Wars quote is usually, I have quite a few. I say, "What's that flashing?" like a lot. I do ones that most people won't do. I say I know, and people say they're like, I know. It's just that one. And I also say, where's that other one? I do that. Oh, my favorite one. No, I'd be far too afraid to make fun of a senator. I don't know. Anytime somebody's like, "Are you joking?" and I'm like, "No, I'm far too afraid to make fun of a senator."
That's awesome.
It's such a bad quote. And I also, I'll be honest. As a joke, I also quote the Chorus Rough Sand thing so many times.
Right.
Every chance that I get, especially when you live in LA and there's a beach right there, and it's like, "Hey, do you want to get I hate the sand. It's coarse and it's rough and it gets everywhere." I can't help it. I'm sorry. And when I go to a convention, anytime I see a Mandalorian, I'm like, "Is this the way?"
Just to hear them say it.
Just to hear them say, "This is the way."
Oh man, that's fantastic. Well, hey,
John, I'll think of 100 other ones after this is over too.
Oh, of course, absolutely. And that's what I love. Again, like my go-to Star Wars quotes are it's gotten to the point where my wife, who doesn't even watch Star Wars, can now say, "What I really need is a droid that understands the binary language moisture evaporators." So I don't know.
Oh, I forget, you made me remember one. Whenever somebody asked me to do this, but I was going to town to get some power converters. That's like my go-to. Like, how dare you ask me to do something? I was going to town to get some power converters.
That's fantastic. Very good. Well, John, where can people find you on the interwebs if they want to follow you and listen to you?
There's one more thing that I feel like as all Star Wars fans should know this one, because it's so funny. Because I feel like there was a cut scene there. When Obi-Wan Kenobi goes to the Sandcrawler he says, "These Imperial blast marks are too precise for sand people. Only stormtroopers are so precise." I feel like they should have been a long pause and they just both break out laughing. Yeah, right. Right. The stormtroopers are so precise. We had to wait to how many movies for them to say we can't see a thing in this helmet.
Right. Oh man, that's actually really funny. They should somebody needs to edit that. Like,
did that. Oh, you mean that scene? Yeah, we could AI the rest of the scene. Just have them cut. Yeah, right. Stormtroopers are so precise. Are you kidding me? They could hit the broadside of a sandcrawler if they tried.
This has to be sand people.
This has to be sand people, obviously. Because this is stormtroopers. The blast marks will be in the sand everywhere, completely missing the thing altogether.
That's really funny. Or Luke saying, "You can't call them sand people. They're Tusken Raiders."
What do you mean, sand people? That's not an appropriate term.
Ben, I know you're old, but come on.
He is an old white man.
It's true. It's true.
I mean, there's a couple of Doctor Who's that they've had to be like, like we can't mention that.
Erase that tape.
It's like we can mention the toy maker, but let's not talk about the original toy maker, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Doctor Who fans are like, oh, I know what that means.
Hey, he is the Time Lord, man. Times have changed. So let's.
I will ask you a question. You've been asking me questions.
That's right. Yes,
I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing a lot of rumors that the Avengers will cross into Star Wars or vice versa at some point, or the MCU Star Wars are going to cross over. I'm just curious.
Oh my God,
what your thoughts?
I cannot think of anything worse than that happening.
I'll tell you my fear. There are Marvel comic books. There is X-Men and Star Trek crossover comic books. So who knows what could freaking happen? And there also were Transformers Star Wars, because I was the voice of one.
Right.
So we get Star Wars and Transformers, right? I mean, they're all in space. There's Cybertron. There's Death Star.
I mean,
they use the same sound effects.
I mean, I cringe even at E.T. appearing in the Phantom Menace in the Senate scene. That even makes me like,
oh, I bet you didn't cringe in Predator 2 when you saw his skull on the wall in the ship.
That was pretty cool, actually.
See, it's all about context. Aha, you don't care.
Oh my God, that would if the Avengers and oh my gosh, that would be.
I mean, the Guardians are in space. Star Wars is in space. I don't know, man. Here's how I would be cool with it.
Okay.
If they did it like E.T., where you just saw Gamora in the back of Mos Eisley Cantina, I would be.
Yeah. Right. Or cool. Like Rocket
kind of force them together. Exactly. Because it's like, we already know these characters. We can have a Star Wars version of this character in the store, because they put every character in Star Wars has got a toy, even if they said nothing. If they were on the screen for a millisecond, there's a toy.
Right. Well, I mean, gosh, to totally nerd out, you have Mace Windu as Nick Fury. So you have that.
We have the multiverse now. So they could totally just go into the Star Wars verse, and Mace Windu meets himself.
That's right. And then you had Ned.
You let a cat rip out your eye?
And then he'd be like, you let an emperor throw you out the window?
Exactly.
Lightning? Actually, that's another really funny scene. If somebody
it writes itself. I'm right here, Dave Filoni. Just anytime.
That
epicvoiceguy.com. Smash that subscribe button.
Oh man, John, I haven't just laughed nonstop for an hour doing an interview in a while. This has been.
Yeah, I saw your other interviews. Just kidding. I'm kidding. I love all you people. I don't know most of you, but I was just joking.
But this was
Jedi tricks that we're gonna be.
Oh my goodness. Well, hey, hopefully I now I'm really curious when you can talk about the Star Wars stuff you're in, let us know.
I'm not gonna, I don't think I'll be in it per se. Maybe, I'm not sure, but I did work on a project, and when it is allowed to come out, I'll be able to maybe say like, I worked on that. So
that'll be a short hour.
It's just like, I mean, whether it's a technicality or not, I worked on a Star Wars thing, so I'm cool with it.
That's great, man. It's really good.
I can't even say who the company is for, because then everybody would instantly know, like, I know what's coming, because that's how secretive things we got to be. All I can say is like the broad overall view. There's some things I can't even say the company for, because people are like, they're making a what? I'm like, crap. So I'm just like, I'm working on things That's all I can say. Things, stuff and things, Coral. All right.
That's great.
See what
Well,
I
so
do.
where can people follow you so they can learn about these things as you're allowed to speak
Epic
about
Voice
them?
Guy. I'm all the major platforms. Epic Voice Guy. It's right down there or there,
So easy
depending
to
on
find.
where you
Yes.
find my camera. No spaces, no ampersands, no hashtags, no 9x9 on each end, or there's not X Epic Voice X Guy X, because this is not the 90s. It's just Epic Voice Guy. I'm not hard to find.
If you find Epic Voice Guy 96413, that is not.
Yeah, anything derivative that's not just straight up Epic Voice Guy and it does not have a check mark ain't me. All right, cool. Okay.
Awesome. Well, Jon, thank you so much, man. This was a ton of fun. I really had a great time talking to you. This was great.
Thank you so much, Pete, and may the force be with you always.
Hey. All right, I'm going to hit the end recording thing here, and then I think